Today we are going to give a demonstration of a dump cake in a Dutch oven. Today's video we will be doing this with Kate, and then we have quality control of Abby. Okay, to start with on these dump cakes is one of the simplest things to cook with a Dutch oven. So I generally like to have a good trash sack ready to go. I have basically a Dutch oven liner. If you don't have a liner, I can also recommend that you can line the inside of this with a piece of aluminum foil. Also, there are some traditionalists who prefer not to put anything inside their Dutch oven. The other thing is we always have to have a lid lifter. We also get a box of cake. It can be any kind of cake. Yellow cake you usually do with apples. I don't know why, but a lot of people like pairing yellow with the apples. But it can be any brand of cake. Of course, we got our apple pie filling that'll go into it. We have just a variety of apples. Sometimes people will use the apples as optional and just have an extra can of pie filling. I like taking the apples and putting that down as the base layer for my dump cake. And then you can get some butter to help line the inside of this to basically keep it a little bit non-stick. Also, you want to take pieces of butter to put on the top of it. And pop of pretty much any kind, but again, any kind of like a lemon lime soda goes well with the apples. Okay, so starting out, Abby is going to go through and she's going to peel all of our apples. Okay, so while she is peeling apples, I'm going to have Kate start buttering up this this liner. Basically, what we've got, I buy these Dutch oven liners. They're specially designed for a 12-inch Dutch oven that will go in there. Like I said, you could easily use like aluminum foil, or you really don't even have to use anything at all. This just helps clean up a lot easier. So basically, Kate is going to rub the butter. Like I said, this is just standard stick butter. So you're going to rub it all along the bottom and make sure that it's all nice and coated. Okay, so a real quick word about Dutch oven lids. The lid that was brought out with this particular Dutch oven is not the actual lid for this. I had to go send my Scout back up to get the correct lid. This right here is the lid to a Dutch oven that is designed more for kitchen usage. This one right here is actually also more designed for like meats and that type thing. If you notice, there is a domed top, a domed lid shape to this. This is the actual Dutch oven lid that we will be using. This one it has a mostly flat bottom, but it also has a lip right here that you can use to basically hold your coals up on top. So we're going to be basically shoveling some coals underneath the Dutch oven and placing our coals on the top. This helps hold the coals into the correct location. Also, you need to make sure that the correct lid matches the correct oven, because depending upon what you're trying to do, you need to make a good and tight seal onto the oven itself. Okay, so we now have all of our apples that have been peeled. So I'm going to take them onto a cutting board and I'm going to slice them. And I like to slice them in about 1/4 inch thicknesses. And it doesn't have to be just perfectly uniform. From here, I can easily cut out the core. And I'm going to put them into a bowl that I'm going to take and put a little bit of water into it. Okay, so basically what we've got our sliced apples. There was a mixture of different type of apples, everything from the American Beauty. I've seen a rocket apple in there. I've seen Granny Smith. I think there might have been a Fuji in there. So I like having a mixture of different type of apples because it just kind of gives a mixture of flavors. So once we've got the sliced apples, I took it in and washed them all good, that type thing. And now Kate is going to put down the first layer. She's going to basically put each of these apples as flat on the bottom as possible. That is perfect. Okay, so once you have your first layer down of apples, basically from here you got a few choices. Like I said, this layer of apples is optional. You could also use 2 cans of pie filling as well. If you have a layer of apples, you can also add some applesauce. But I found if you add the applesauce, you might need 2 of the cake mixes to absorb some of the moisture. So I basically will have this right here as my base layer, and then our pie filling will go on top of that. Okay, so we've got the apple pie filling in here, and we also did happen to find a little bit of applesauce, so we went and put that in here too. It's not a whole lot, just a little bit. But anyway, I've gone through and I've smoothed it down to where we've got a nice and even layer. From here, we are going to open our yellow cake mix. And open it very carefully because we have a very specific way we want to sprinkle this on top to where we make sure that we get a nice and even coating. Make sure you get it on the sides as well. So the apples and the applesauce and the pie filling will provide moisture from the bottom. Okay, so once we are done here, you can use something, and I'm just going to use my hands, but I'm going to try and smooth it over. Kind of pat it down a little bit. But I'm trying to make sure that it is a nice and even layer. Okay, using the butter that we use to basically rub down the bottom and the sides, I want to go through here and take just portions of this, and it doesn't have to be very big, as thin and small as you can, but just kind of spread some of these around on there. This also kind of helps give it a nice little buttery flavor. It also kind of helps give it just a little bit more moisture in there too. But as thin as you can get that butter, that's kind of what we're after. And you don't have to put a huge amount on there, just more or less enough that you can kind of spread around. And then as one of the last things to this, we take some type of a lemon lime pop, and we're going to go in here and we're going to put a little bit of this in here. And this is going to be basically providing a little bit of moisture from the top back down. Pour a lemon lime pop in here. And as my good old buddy Justin Wilson said when he talked about his wine, got a little bit for the pop and a little for me. Okay, so I'm going to go in and I'm going to readjust my liner here because I want a good seal before we put this on the heat. Okay, so let's see how it did. This seems to be pretty well done. And top of it basically has a little bit, it is a little soft because of the moisture that was on top of it and stuff. But when we cut into it, there's a huge amount of moisture underneath that will go into part of our good tasting with our crust.